I was laying on the couch and I had this like plush blanket, and now I have little fluffy pieces of stuff all over me, so my bad. It's early here in the morning and it's snowing. Everyone was sleeping and I thought, I have some time, let's film this video. Okay, so this is going to be a comparison video of the MD Notebook by Midori and the Nanami notebook, which is called the Cafe Note, I believe. Let's look, shall we? Yeah. These are both B6 notebooks, and when I went on JetPen's site, I was looking at the description, and it stated that B6 and A6 was created for people who were doing the rail commutes. So anyone who was on a train and needed to stand, they would still be able to hold this notebook in their hand and write. And that's where the size came from, and I think that's very cool because it means that it's very portable, and why I love it so much so far. It's like big enough, bigger than a personal size, so there's enough space for me as a writer, but leaving enough space for me to plan where I don't feel like I'm planning on an A5 notebook and I'm just like, that is way too much space for me. So it's a very great size when you want something that's portable but has enough space to write in. So we'll start with the outside. First of all, both of these are sewn, which is great because it means that you can lay them completely flat. This one needs a little breaking in, but once you do, it does lay flat, which makes me very happy. You can see here also the same, sewn so nicely, but also I love it because you can get inside and write all the way to the edge, whereas sometimes when they're stapled or they're not sewn properly, you get this kind of effect where you can't really get inside there, and that kind of annoys me. They both are covered in a cardstock. This one is actually a thicker cardstock. It seems like it's a little bit more durable in my opinion. This one looks like it's a little unfinished. You can see here that this one comes with a ribbon, this one does not, and it has like this mesh on it to cover where the binding is, but you know, it kind of just screams to me, hey, put a cover on me, where this one looks a little bit more finished. And the red paper wraps all the way around, so you don't see any of like the stitching here on the side. Both of these notebooks are soft covers, which makes your girl very happy because you know how I feel about my soft cover notebooks. I love them. So that is great. I will say that this guy has this like cream colored cardstock on it, and I don't know if you can tell, I hope it's in frame, but I have some red marks already on it, like all over the place, and that is from having it right next to this notebook. It marks very easily on here, so the color is transferring from this notebook onto here. So I would highly recommend getting a cover, whether it's you know, a leather one or just a clear one like I purchased when I showed the unboxing of this, because this is definitely going to get marked up very easily. So inside the MD notebook, we have very cream colored paper, and they mentioned that they use the cream colored paper because it's easier on the eyes than having like a very brilliant blinding white paper, and that is true. I remember when Yellow Paper House was super big, I wanted to make an insert like that to see if I'd even use it, and I bought a bunch of really neon colored paper, and staring at it after like even a few minutes, I was getting a headache because it was so bright. So that could be a situation for some people. So inside the Nanami notebook, you can see that it is definitely a white compared to this very, very cream color. So in the front, we definitely have like this cover page that allows you to put like your purpose for this notebook and your name. Whereas in the Nanami, we do not have that. It just goes straight into the notebook. And I have definitely mentioned before that B6 Slim and all of these sizes, they're not really universal. The sizing basically depends on the maker. So I'm not sure if JetPens has the exact measurements for this notebook. They might be on the back here, but they're, you know, not in English, so I'm not sure. But when I was looking at a conversion table on the internet, this was stating that it was larger than this, which is not true. So I'm not sure about the measurements on JetPen's website. I could have it wrong. So let me show you that. Up here at the top, you can see that it's just like, hopefully I'm in frame, it's literally like a sliver taller, the red Nanami notebook. And then as far as the width, you can see that it's just a smidge wider than Nanami than the MD. back to the paper. So initially I did an unboxing of this notebook, and now that I've had more time to actually look at the MD notebook, I've noticed a couple of other things I didn't realize before. So on here you have these little notches up at the top, and you also have some dots. So off to the side you get 1, 2, 3 dots on either side, and then at the top you get 1 dot. And I thought, oh, okay, these are probably to help you when you're measuring with a ruler and you want to divide things, but it's actually not divided equally. So up at the top you have 10 squares on this side and then 8 on this side, and then you have the dot, and it's not actually centered properly. And these also are not divided in thirds evenly, so I was like, what's going on with that? So here it states that a modern take on nostalgic Japanese manuscript paper with grid lines. Divisions are placed on the paper to make it easier to count words. So this is actually set up so that you can count words, and that made more sense to me why it wasn't divided evenly. So every 2 squares here, you get a little notch, and that's also true off to the side. And then every 10 squares, you end up getting a dot. So there's 10, 20, 30, and then it has 32 lines here. Now I believe on JetPen's website originally it said that there were 33 lines. So I'm not entirely sure where that came from, but if you count, there's 10 and then a dot, 10 and then a dot, 10 and then a dot, and then you get 2 extras, so there's 32 lines. So both of these notebooks have grid, except the MD notebook has 5mm grid, and the Nanami has 3.7. I appreciate the bigger grid because I have larger handwriting, whereas the smaller grid can sometimes frustrate me, and I feel like I have to skip a line more on the smaller grid than I do with the 5mm grid. Like, I feel like I can go ahead and write on every line if I needed to. The grid in the MD notebook is this very subtle blue, as you can see there, and the rows actually don't touch, which is very interesting to me. They don't connect, so you can see that there is like a gap between where the line should reach up to the next row. In the MD notebook, you end up with 32 lines down and 18 columns across. In the Nanami notebook, you get 37 lines down and 27 across. So since this has 1, 2, 3, 4 of these boxes where you can put like titles in or like specific goals that you want to highlight, you get less boxes. So when I count 37, I'm just counting this big square that goes straight across. I'm not counting these actual 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up here that are stopped from going straight across because of this box. In the Nanami notebook, you will see that these are not just solid squares either. They're made up of little dashes and also of little crosses. So if you have more of a mathematical brain, this looks like a lot of addition and subtraction. I appreciate the subtle gray to the Nanami notebook. There are 88 pages in the MD notebook, according to JetPen's website, and there are 384 pages in the Nanami notebook, as you can see there. The Nanami notebook also has Tomoe River paper, which is that Bible-y thin paper, so it allows for you to have a lot more pages in the book without as much thickness. This is 52 GSM. The MD notebook just refers to it as MD paper, so I'm not sure of the GSM of this paper, but I do know that in the Tomoe River paper, you're going to have a lot of ghosting, and that's not everybody's favorite thing, where this is a thicker paper, so you're going to have less ghosting. But they both say that they're fountain pen friendly, and both of them seem to hold up well to most pens as far as bleed through is concerned. For most people, an important issue is pricing, and so with the MD Midori notebook, you end up getting 88 pages for $12.50. and that is according to JetPen. So you can buy this from a lot of different websites. I would definitely shop around. And then for the Nanami notebook, you end up getting 384 pages, and this was $16. So this company actually makes this notebook and sells it. So I don't personally know any other website that actually sells this other than Amazon. And the Nanami notebooks that I have seen for sale, they're usually the A5 size, not the B6 Slim, and they're usually exactly the same price as on the website. So that is also something to consider. You end up getting 296 pages more in this notebook for about $3.50 more. Whereas this one, you end up getting 88 pages for like $3.50 less. So that might be something that causes somebody to say, I would prefer the Nanami notebook, because we definitely here in the US are like more bang for our buck. And I think you get more pages for a great price with the Nanami notebook. Now, for people who are planner addicts or people who write a lot, we understand and appreciate that sometimes we want a notebook that has less pages because, for instance, myself, I like a notebook that has less pages because I get bored really easily and I move on very quickly. And so I like the idea and the satisfaction of filling up a notebook quickly and being able to move on. Whereas this notebook is probably going to take me a lot longer to fill up, and I'm going to be in it for a while. So I really have to make sure that I love it, or else I'm going to write in it for a little bit and then it's going to sit on the shelf. I do have 3 other Nanami notebooks in the A5 size. One I did sell, but I still have 2, and I've yet to finish them, and I've had them for a couple of years. So it takes a long time to finish a notebook of this size. Another important thing to mention is I feel like the MD notebook has more stability. So the cardstock is thicker and the paper is thicker. So if you were standing, like for instance, on a train, and you were writing on this, I feel like it would work really nicely and you didn't have to have anything underneath it. Whereas this is a little bit heavier, it flops a little bit more. The paper is very like kind of flimsy because it's so like Bible-y thin that I feel like this would be a little bit more of an issue if you wanted to walk and move around and write on it. And since we're into spring and I'm going to be using this a lot in the summer, I feel like on the go, I would prefer something like this. Like I could imagine taking this with me if I went fishing or camping and I just wanted to write some things. Whereas this, I'd be a little bit more concerned about the pages getting bent up and dirty. Whereas this one, it's just more like most Midori things or Traveler's Company, you know, accessories. They seem to be a little bit more rustic and ready to go out into nature. And, you know, I could imagine like drawing leaves on here or, you know, sketching something, as well as putting some data. You know, this is very like more of a scientific looking book to me. Is that funny? Whereas this has more characteristics of something that's meant for like a fountain pen that sits at your desk. Now on to the couple of things that I have for the B6 Slim. So this is made by MD also, specifically for the MD notebook, and it fits on here perfectly. Whereas when I tried to use this cover on the Nanami, because this notebook is a little bit taller, it still fit okay in there, but the thickness of it was not going to happen. Plus this is, of course, again, a few centimeters wider. And so when I put this cover on here, I can go ahead and show you, it wouldn't close. Okay, so you can see that it holds the height, just that like smidge taller. That's not an issue, but it's not going to close because it's, you know, just a few centimeters wider. Plus it's definitely thicker. That is a bummer, but it is important to note that NanamiPaper.com, they do sell a B6 Slim cover that looks identical, in my opinion, to this one, that's supposed to fit this cover. So if you don't want to go with an expensive cover, these are only like maybe $3 also on that website. Okay, so if you know of any other B6 Slim notebooks out there that you think I should try out, let us know down below. It's important to note that you can buy something like Astology that comes in a B6 size, which is going to be wider, but still about the same height, and you can get it cut down like at a Kinko's or an Office Depot. Which notebook would you choose and why? Do you feel like pricing is an issue for you? Do you feel like the pages one having about 296 pages more than the other is important. Do you think that the colored paper where it's more cream as opposed to the white is an issue? How about the fact that this has 5mm grid and this one has a much smaller millimeter grid at 3.7. I decided to purchase the B6 Slim because I love the way it fits in my hand. I love that it's not so long so it can fit in smaller purses. I'm also happy that the B6 Slim is becoming more popular here in the US because I'm hoping that means they're going to start making more sizes here in the US. It's definitely something that they do make in Japan, and I just like having more options. Right now, one thing that's very interesting, and maybe you guys already know why, but for some reason, even though B6 Slim has gotten a lot of popularity here in the US, Foxyfix does not carry it as a size for travelers' notebooks. I'm not sure if they actually make a folio in B6 Slim, because they do make folios there, but I found that very interesting. So, like, I just think that they're doing themselves a disservice in not carrying a B6 Slim, because then I have to go to like Sojourner or Chic Sparrow or somewhere else in order to get that. But I really do love the bright colors and the different leathers that Foxyfix sells. So that is a bummer. Alright, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope that this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!